Not even 24 hours removed from the official end of college basketball, Auburn basketball gets some more news. Jabari Smith has made his decision on the future for him, and let's talk about now what it means for Auburn basketball and obviously for Jabari Smith's future. But first, I want to welcome you back to the channel. Whether you're a member of the Auburn family or a fan of another persuasion, this is the E2C network where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the content, and thank you to members of our booster club like Co and Danny who help produce videos like this. We all knew this news was coming. Doesn't make it any easier, does it? Well, obviously you know kind of where we're heading with the news and Jabari Smith's decision, but let's first talk about for a second the greatness that was having Jabari Smith as part of the Auburn basketball program. You're talking about a guy that is the highest ranked currently, will that change in the future? We'll find out, highest ranked recruit that they've ever brought in to be a part of the program, even greater than names like Charles Barkley out there. Granted, they weren't really tracking that type of thing back then as far as I understand, but still the point stands. The magnitude of his importance coming into the program was already there, but to have that realized was the biggest thing for me personally, because we've seen this before. We've had big names come in and maybe they did some great things, but maybe didn't fully reach the potential that we all thought they had. Jabari did that. There's no question that he will probably go down as of this moment as the greatest freshman Auburn has ever had when you just have this one season to look at it. People are already wanting to talk about if he's been the greatest player of all time. It's way too early to be talking about that, and honestly, you only have one season to go off of. If you're talking about the greats of Auburn basketball, you obviously go straight to Charles Barkley, a name like that. You've got multiple seasons, a longer period of time to make that type of judgment, but we'll just wait and see how his professional career might end up. Regardless, what a name, what a player, and what a great guy that we had as part of this program. Now to the news, he has officially announced that he will be leaving the Auburn basketball program to go and try his hand in the NBA, entering his name into the 2022 NBA draft. As I've already addressed, this shouldn't have shocked anybody. What was surprising for me, though, was the amount of people that were trying to convince themselves that there was a legitimate chance that he was considering coming back. No. I was going to be shocked if he made it further than this day without announcing. He seemed like the type of guy to just kind of wait till everything else is kind of done with the season to move on to that. And I would bet you that he and Walker Kessler also discussed when each of them were going to make their decisions, so there wasn't any stepping on toes at that moment. Now, immediately when someone enters the portal or declares that they're moving on to the professional ranks, our first question in our minds always is there a chance that they could come back? Well, yeah, there's always a chance, but is it going to happen? Again, those of you that were convinced him that he was going to stay, no, don't do that to yourselves. Don't set yourself up for that failure. However, as of this moment, to that end, there has been no clarification on if he intends to not come back to college or if he would pull himself out in the right situation. There's no indication if he's signed with an agent. That's usually the qualifier with like, I'm not coming back. There hasn't been an indication of that yet. Maybe by the time you've watched this video, that has been clarified. But seriously, don't do that to yourself. He's going into the NBA draft, and this can kind of lead into what it means for obviously him, but obviously the basketball program as well. Jabari Smith is going to be, at bare minimum, a lottery pick. Just for layman's term, a lottery pick is like the top group of athletes and players that are picked in the NBA draft. Honestly, he should be top 5, and if he's not, that's a travesty. He's really being discussed in the top 3 with Chet Holmgren of Gonzaga and Pablo Banchero of Duke. It's really a question of right there. So most people that you talk to expect him in the top 3. The question is, will he get that number 1 spot? It's really going to depend on what team has that pick and what their actual needs are, and not so much on the merits of Jabari being worthy of the number 1 pick or not. But here's the thing that it means for Auburn. Auburn has now established not just a pattern, but a history in several ways when it comes to the NBA draft since Bruce Pearl has got here. It started with Chuma Okeke and getting drafted in the first round. Then it continued with Isaac Okoro getting drafted in the top 5. Follow that up the next year with 2 picks in JT Thor and Sharif Cooper. Now this year, you're sending 2 again, and both likely in the first round, both possibly in lottery picks. And who knows exactly where they're both going to get picked up. It could get even better than that. The history has been established for Auburn, Coach Pearl, and what they can do for players in even a short amount of time, and even when there are other superstars here. The message has been sent. Come to Auburn and you will get to the NBA no matter the circumstance. So for those of you today that are very sad, which I am a little bit, about Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler no longer being part of this program, take hold of the fact that they mean something much more, much longer term for Auburn basketball. Let's dive a little bit more specific into this season and what it means though. Now I will address that we have done 2 previous videos kind of leading up to this point. But first with the announcement of Johan Traore deciding to come to Auburn. It was then followed up by the Walker Kessler announcement. It might be good to go back and check those videos out so you can kind of understand the thought process here. We'll cover a little bit of that again, just to kind of set the table for what to expect going forward. With the loss of the greatest front court that Auburn might have ever seen in their basketball history, that opens up a lot of opportunity. There are 4 spots that are now officially available on the team, and 3 of those currently have been filled, meaning there's 1 spot left. The biggest question now is where will Johan Traore fall into his role? Right now, we had assumed that he would fill the Walker Kessler type of role, the center-ish type of position, even though he's not as big of a player as Walker Kessler was. It makes the most logical sense for the team right now. But honestly, he's better suited as a stretch 4, like a Jabari Smith. But if there's no one out there that's interested to come to Auburn, which there are at this point, we'll have to see what happens though. He might be better suited to fill the role that Walker Kessler did in some fashion. It's not going to be an exact switch in and switch out for this player, but you kind of get the point. But what it does mean for Traore, with the absence now of not only Kessler but Jabari Smith, it gives him options about how to be utilized on this team. No Jabari Smith means the Jabari Smith spot is open and you can fill that role right away. But it also gives you the freedom to utilize him as your main big man down there if that's how you want to use him. And that's not even counting how other players that potentially are out there might factor into how this team will function going into next year. And we also don't need to exclude players like Jalen Williams at a power forward, Dylan Cardwell at center from this equation as well. What you need to take away from this news and what it means. What an amazing time it was to have Jabari Smith as part of this program. And what he did for us will never, ever be forgotten. What it means going forward, there's a history established now for a selling point for recruiting for Auburn basketball and Bruce Pearl. And what it means for this next season, there are plenty of opportunities opened up for players like Johan Traore and anyone else that wants to make their claim in a young, thriving Auburn basketball program. And I cannot be more excited and more thankful for players like Jabari Smith, who were great on the court, but especially off of it as well. Jabari, thank you for choosing us and being part of the Auburn family. Now I want to hear from you in the comments section below. What's your reaction to Jabari Smith deciding to head off into the sunset to the NBA draft, and where do you think he'll end up overall? Let me know down there in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this type of content, please do help support it by smashing that like button. If you don't want to miss any of our content, be sure to subscribe along with hitting that notification bell so you don't miss any of our content, including uploads and live streams. There's ways so you can help support the content listed in the description, such as hitting the join button here to be a channel member for $1 a month, or heading over to patreon.com/E2C Network to be a part of the Booster Club, starting at $1 a month for extra perks on top of that at each level. Thank you for tuning into the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle.